Okay, let's talk about the scarf. It is a mitered scarf, which means that instead of being worked just in plain back and forth rows, either widthwise or lengthwise, you do that for part of it, and then you work back and forth over two edges, right? So one corner, so you work over two edges. If you haven't done mitered rows before, or maybe you don't think you've done mitered rows, it's just like edging a scarf or a blanket, except you don't go around the whole thing. You only go around half of it, right? Assuming, of course, that it's a square or a rectangle. So let's have a look. All right. So this uses 2 skeins of Earth Yarns Unique Worsted. So we don't want to focus on it. Unique Worsted. No, really? Hello? Nope, doesn't want to focus. Okay, anyway, so this is 100% extra fine superwash merino, and the colorway that I used for this scarf is 4024. They don't name their colorways, they just have numbers. But the cool thing about this is how it starts, and it works all the way through a different set of striping through the whole skein, so it doesn't repeat. So it ends or begins with this orange. So it's orange and blue on one end and orange and green on the other end, so that if you can join them together cyclically, right? But this whole, I can't even get it on the screen. It's one skein of yarn that is worked with this narrow band. So this part of it is worked in back and forth rows, short runs. So just a few stitches, about 3 inches wide in back and forth rows until you get to close to the end of the first skein of yarn. You have to stop before you get to the end of it. Here is, you know what? Hold on a second. Oh, never mind. Okay. And right side facing. So when you get to, it's about 6.5 inches from your target length, but this one stretches a lot. Some superwash yarns grow, right? And this one stretched quite a bit on me. So I only worked it to like 61, 62 inches because I knew it was going to stretch in length. So my final measurements before blocking was 68 inches, which is a reasonable size scarf. But when I blocked it, it blocked out. It's now like 78 inches long. So it does stretch quite a bit. But anyway, you stop before you get all the way to the end, and then you start working these mitered rows, right? So you work back and forth, and that's when you start seeing this granny square type effect. It's a modified granny square stitch using single crochet stitches in between the groups. So you work a row single crochet, and then these are chain 3 spaces in between single crochets here. I keep hiding behind it. And then when you work back up, then that's when you do these double crochets. So your double crochets are all facing. And so you get this mitered edge on this side, but then on the other end, you're working, this is where you end your rows, right? And you turn around and go back. So you get this asymmetric edge to the scarf. And the way I did the colors with this one, so I started with this green and orange, and when I finished the first skein of yarn, which was in here somewhere, right about here, you see this group of this short section of orange, that's about where I changed colors. And so then I reversed it. I went back the same way I came with colors. Now you could do it the other way, so join on at the beginning again, right, of the same color that you started with the first time. But I really wanted this bright orange and pink and green on the outer edge so that I would have it on both ends, so that when you wrap it up around, let's see here, I want that up. There we go. All right, so this is my favorite way to tie a scarf, right? So snug it up right up there. All right, and so that way I can see, and it's kind of off screen, isn't it? So give me a second. So now I've got these two ends with those bright colors right there on the edges. So I really wanted those brighter colors to be on the outside edge. So that's why I did it that way. Now, one of the great things about this design is that it's super simple, right? So you've got single crochets, you've got double crochets, and you have chain spaces, and that's it. So it's really good for the adventurous beginner because they can take those basic stitches, those two basic stitches, the single crochet and the double crochet, and they can get this really dynamic piece with just those basic stitches. And the pattern is going to have a video tutorial with it, so if you're not sure about this whole mitered row thing or exactly where you're going to put your hook while you're working across the ends of the rows, don't worry, I got you covered. So that will definitely be a resource that's available. Oh, I also wanted to show you, this is the leftover yarn that I had, and I made a little crocheted flower, and then I put it on. This is just a braided, like a bracelet, a little leather bracelet, but it's can also double as a shawl cuff or scarf cuff or whatever you want. I only wrapped it around once, but it would be better if I wrapped it around two. So that was just for fun. Let me do it around two here, because that's not really thick enough. There, just a fun little accessory with my leftover bits of yarn. So let's talk for a second about your yarn choices. Now, this is a worsted weight yarn, and it's self-striping, right? So you've got these sections of color, and they're pretty wide, these stripes here, as this is written. If you would like to make the whole scarf wider and you want those stripes to be wider with this same yarn, then you can do that. Just get a third skein of yarn, right? And work your first section of it with wider rows, and then go into the mitering, and that will make your stripes here a little bit narrower. So instead of being 2 or 3 rows of double crochet in one stripe segment, then you'll get it down to 1 or maybe 2 rows. So if you'd like to lengthen those stripes out, that's one way that you can do it. I haven't tested using one of the fingering weight yarns for this. It should adapt easily enough, but I don't know how much yardage you'll need. So it'll automatically get smaller, right, if you switch to one of their fingering weight yarns, because they have this same, the unique, they have unique worsted, they have unique fingering, and they have unique cotton yarns. And I don't remember what the weight is on that one, but yeah, they do have different options that you can choose from, and you'll get similar effects with them. It's just that if you're going to use that fingering weight yarn, you might need more yarn, or I mean, it's going to be a lot narrower. So when you work that first section, you're going to need to work it longer, and so that's why I'm concerned that you might need more yarn than just the 2 skeins, because I went back and forth on this. I frogged it multiple times. I pulled it out and redid it because I was trying to maximize that yardage. I started out working with 3 skeins, and it wasn't working right. So I reworked it using just 2 skeins, and it finally turned out the way that I wanted it to, and using most of the yarn too. So that was my goal, was to make sure that I used most of the yarn. But to also give you some guidance on what you can do. So if you have a looser tension than I have, if you do a little gauge swatch, which is just the first part of the scarf, and you measure it and your tension is looser, so the piece you get is bigger, then your scarf, you may need to make it a little bit shorter to make sure that you don't run out of yarn when you get into the mitered rows. Or, so there are 5 mitered sections, so it's actually 10 mitered rows. So if you do run out of yarn before you finish the 5th one, it's okay, pull it out and just have 4 mitered rows. All right, and then of course, like I said, if you want to make it bigger, either wider or longer, then get another skein of yarn and add on to it, and that'll also kind of bump up your stripe ratio if you add the 3rd skein in. So if you want to make it even more colorful, then you can do that with it. So let me I don't know that there's really anything else to tell you about it. Like I said, the stitches are pretty simple. It uses just 2 skeins of yarn, and it's about 6 inches wide and nearly 80 inches long after blocking. So that was a pleasant surprise that it blocked out so long. But yeah, I think that's it. So if you have any questions, let me know. I do have a couple tutorials on the optional. You can start it with foundation single crochet, or you can just work a chain and single crochet into it. And then I also suggest using a chainless double crochet to start your double crochet rows, but you can skip that too and just do a turning chain of 3 and count that as your first stitch. But yeah, I think that is it for this scarf, except that it's going to be live on May 12th and it's going to be in the shop at Yarn Matters. So if you're in the area, if you're in Virginia, close to the James River Yarn Crawl in 2023, stop by and check it out. You'll get to see it there in person, which is super exciting. So I will stop rambling now, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.